forget, every Proview Network sporting event is on sale at our DVD store. Go to www.proviewnetworks.com to buy your DVD today. Gecko's Bar and Tapas, a proud supporter of Proview Networks. It's been a fan favorite spot for food lovers and sports fans. With not one, but two great locations, including outdoor patio, an atmosphere you won't want to miss. Gecko's, off Academy and in Nob Hill.
Hoops New Mexico Basketball Courts is coming to Albuquerque soon. 10 full basketball courts and a whole lot more. For more information, contact Dan Serrano at hoopsnm@aybl.com.
Folks, there's no other way but to be all in. Either he's Lord of all or he is not Lord at all. And you can experience the real and authentic, true life change that only God can provide to humanity. See, when we truly encounter Jesus and purpose to know him and follow his teachings, hashtag life change will occur.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the Sports Desk. I'm Scott Gallotti, along with the man to my left, Ed Nunez. We have some special guests coming up here today. We're going to talk a lot of sports, a lot of things upcoming. Coaches Clinic coming up next week. The Mountain West Media Days coming up next week. Just a lot of stuff going on. And Ed, even though we called this the downtime of the year, it's starting to crank up a little bit.
Yeah, it really is, and it has been somewhat of a downtime, but there's still some entertaining things, the NBA Summer League, McGregor, Mayweather, some local stuff as well, and I think we've got two great guests today to help us talk about those subjects.
And one of them is the head, what's your title? The vice president, the coordinator, the leader of
Which job are we talking about?
New Mexico Bowl.
Ah, that one, executive director.
Executive director. Okay, sorry about that, because we want to make sure that you get your due, because, you know, I've mentioned it many, many times, both on radio and television. You know, I am a huge fan of the New Mexico Bowl and what you do and how you make, and people here may not realize what they have, but myself, having covered the Vegas Bowl, the Holiday Bowl, Poinsettia Bowl, the Rose Bowl, all this National Championship Bowl games, I've been to all those. And you run them as big time as those, in my opinion.
That means a lot. Thank you, Scott. It's not me. It's you know, we've got a staff that and a community that's really done this, and you've watched it over the last 9 years, and it
gets better. Cool. That's the cool thing.
Well, because we sit, you know, when you guys talk about downtime, and I'm thinking, man, when is this downtime you talk about? I think one of the reasons we've been able to make this better every year is because this is the time of year where we're really working.
Right.
And you know, people say, what do you do all year? And it's such a loaded question, because you don't just show up in December and throw a party. It's like we were talking to somebody who runs a school on the radio show today. And people say, what do you do all summer? You take a time off. No, you don't just show up for school and open it up and you know, all the classrooms are set up, right, and everything's ready to go. There's people that are working all year to make these things happen. And so it's a long way to say thank you for your kind remarks, because you know, Rand and Carrie and our staff works year round to make sure that this thing is great. For, you know, it's something that, you know, I've believed in for a long time for this community, and I look at it as a quality of life event as much as a play or a concert or anything else that comes to town, and I know it's an economic driver. Right. And going on our 12th year, which is almost unbelievable to say and to hear. I got to town when you were going on, I believe, your 5th year. You know, it's crazy. It's hard to believe how far you've come along, and it's such a great event. My favorite thing, Ed, is, and we've talked about it, and usually we get him for maybe a segment because it's bowl week and he's running all over the place getting ready for the bowl, but we have a little more time with Jeff this week. But my favorite part, the luncheon, when the bands come in.
A lot of places don't do that.
Yeah, it's something.
That's one of the most cool things. And then you have the afternoon session where you have the bands, the battle of the bands in the afternoon. Another cool thing.
You know, part of the deal is the pageantry. And I'm a big believer in the bowl system. And I know there's a lot of people who have been pushing in recent years, oh, the bowls are this, they're that, go to a playoff. And I always ask the question, for whom are we doing this? Are we doing it for the student athlete? Are we doing it for the communities? Are we doing it for the hardcore fan?
Right.
And when you look at the overall, the encompassing of what college football's postseason is, it really serves a greater population than just that hardcore guy. First of all, the pageantry is so special. It is unlike anything else.
Right.
It is, and that's okay. You know, it doesn't have to be like everything.
Well, you
else.
have pageantry for the fans.
For everybody.
And then you have it for the players.
Yeah.
Most bowls have it for the players. You have it for the fans as well, and that's what I love.
We try, and so the bands are a big piece of it. You know, people always say, what are you going to do for your halftime show? Well, the Orange Bowl does something special, but we do have the teams' bands play. And if the bands are going to, the schools are going to have that expense to send their bands to the event, we're going to give them the forum on which to perform. And so that's why we do the team's bands at halftime and not bring in some big time act. That's the way that caters to the schools. It's got to be that way. And it's so special. I've become, over the last 12 years, and even before I was, but such a believer in the bowl system and watching the student athletes over the years, that if there wasn't a bowl system, and we've had 10-win teams and we've had 6-win teams, but if it wasn't for the bowl system, the student athletes, and we've had now 24 different teams, well, I guess 22, we've had 11 going on 12, worth of young men, student athletes, who've gotten experience that they'll remember forever, who have been to Albuquerque that wouldn't have been to New Mexico otherwise. And our community has gotten to enjoy some of these young men, and the young ladies who have come with the bands and the spirit squads. It is special, and something I believe in, and it's something that we're going to continue to bang away at, and as an association, the Football Bowl Association believes in, and I think college football is incredibly healthy, and it's evolved over the time I've been involved, but watching it and being part of it is something special. You
know, Jeff, I think the thing is that with the pageantry that you mentioned, it's been done with the New Mexico flair, and I love that. Yeah. You know, it's a New Mexico Bowl. You know, the Lobos have been in it 3 times, I believe. You've had other teams, other schools come here. But what's the challenge of keeping the pageantry and new ideas? Because you're right, here's the off season to plan for December, and it's a lot of work. I know that. But what's the challenge to keep coming up with things that are different and creative and new?
You know, Ed, it's a great question, and you're walking a fine line, right? Because you don't want to fix it if it's not broken. And you figure you're going to get a different group of student athletes and traveling parties and fans to throw the party for next year. Yeah. So you want to continue to evolve and make it better, but you don't want to fix it if it's not broken. And so part of what we do, and you hear athletic directors say at the end of every year, we're going to evaluate each program. Well, we do evaluate everything we do, from the gifting to the luncheon to how we greet teams to the hotels, to the meals, to everything we do. And we say, okay, this worked really well. Do we want to tweak with that? Okay, we've been doing this for 3 or 4 years. Let's maybe do something different. Our gifting changes every year. And then we do sit, people say, what do you do with these things you travel on? We go to Football Bowl Association meetings with all 40 bowls are sitting there. And I sit in a group with the executive directors, and Carrie's with operations people, and Rayanne's with people in media relations. And we all, what do you guys do? How do you keep this fresh? Oh, we come back, hey, you know what they do?
Brainstorming is basically what you're doing.
Totally. Yeah. And so a lot of people use our ideas, and we use other people's ideas and make them New Mexico. And so the fine line between keeping it fresh and not, breaking it, and that you evaluate it, and so what worked last year? You talk to the people who were there. How did the ladies' day work? Do they like getting massages and manis and pedis? Yeah, they kind of like that. Let's keep that. Okay. How did our guest speaker work? And it's a constant evaluation process, and trying to it's hospitality.
Alden, let's go ahead and run some of those slides while we're talking here. We have the executive director of the New Mexico Bowl, Jeff Simbieta, also host of the opening drive along with J.J. Buck. And, I love the way that the stadium is made up with the banners around the stadium, the field, and everything. And I think this is one of the older pictures. But
I think this is last year because if you could look at the north and the east side, the field wrap's gone. And last year we had 60-mile-an-hour winds, and it ripped our field wrap off. You can see in that far corner there's
that what happened?
The Gildan sign.
Because I love the field wrap. So.
Yeah, no, we do too. And we're going to have a new one made, and there's new technology now. But yeah, last year we had, for the first time in 11 years, we had a weather issue. It was raining sideways on game day morning, and the A-frames that you normally see on the sign were literally going airborne. And we're working on, Ed, to your point, we're looking at new technology, buying new A-frames that we can weigh down, how to further, we can bolt some of the signage into the walls now. But yeah, that was pre-game last year. It looks beautiful, but man, the wind's blowing hard.
We also have there's a look at some of the player celebration from the Lobos who won last year, and one of the nice things about the New Mexico Bowl, I don't think there's been a bad game yet. Every game's been down to the wire and exciting.
Yeah, I know. We've been very fortunate. Ned, to your point, you're looking at Dakota Cox holding up the Gildan New Mexico Bowl Defensive Player of the Year award. We've tried to stay true to New Mexico with the awards. A gentleman named Ralph Aragon at the Zia Pueblo is the gentleman who hand creates that particular award, the Offensive and Defensive Player of the Year award, or Player of the Game award, and then Marcellus and Elizabeth Medina create the trophy.
We got the trophy here somewhere also, but the best trophy in sports. There you look at just the overall picture, and I mean, when you look at the photos. I have no idea.
I like that one.
Pulled it offline. So I mean, the best thing that I love about these photos, you wouldn't know that it's the artist formerly known as University Stadium. It looks like a totally different stadium.
Yeah, that looks like the UTEP BYU game back in 2011. Is just by looking at the teams on the field. With a great sunset, and we try to dress it up. We paint the New Mexico in the end zone yellow. We've got different markings around the field, and just try to.
There's the trophy.
Things.
I mean, one of, and it's a different trophy every year.
Yeah, it's handmade, and it's got the team logos each year. And that's with the old Gildan logo as well. It's just one of those things where you try to evolve it and make it. You keep what you're doing, but make it fresh. How do you make tradition? And I think after 11, now 12 years, we have tradition, and yet continue to make it something fresh and new, and that's what we're doing. And we've had some great crowds, and to your point, Scott, we've had just terrific games. Last year's game was a one-score game when UTSA came in, and they brought 4,500, 5,000 fans, their first ever bowl game, and just really excited. We've never had, and it's funny when you sit with these executive directors from around the country and you hear their nightmare stories of this coach or that, we've never had one. We've never had a fan base or a team that didn't want to be here. And when you think of a bowl at our level of bowl, you'd think, wow,
we had a team a couple of years ago in Arizona that was disappointed to be here, but
the first time,
they were very happy to be in this bowl because the first time they had a blast.
It's
and their coach is very on board with the New Mexico Bowl.
And Rich Rodriguez was such a big proponent. So the first time they were here was the first time we had a Pac-12 team. So there was nothing for them to compare it to. And we went out of our, we always go out of our way. I don't want to say we did anything differently than we would, but they had a great time. And they won an unbelievable game, 49-48. They beat Nevada. And Rich Rodriguez had never been in a pre-Christmas bowl. And he said, afterwards, he said, if you're not going to play in the big dogs, we want to play pre-Christmas. We want to play first and let the kids go back. And so 3 years later, when Arizona was looking for a bowl, they were an extra Pac-12 team. We were aggressive in wanting to get Arizona. Rich wanted to come back to our game. And that was one of the things that was most validating. He said, we want to go to the Gildan New Mexico Bowl because we had a great time. In that time, they'd been to Shreveport to the Independence Bowl. I don't remember what it was called at that point. They went to the Fiesta Bowl, and then came back to us and said, Jeff, the Fiesta Bowl, it's the Fiesta Bowl, it's grand, but as far as the events for the kids and how you treat us, the Gildan New Mexico Bowl was as good as anything he's ever been to. We're talking about a guy who's been at West Virginia, Michigan, Arizona, and wanted to be here. And that's to our community, that's as validating as anything we can
Absolutely.
get.
Now, here's one of the things. You used to have ITS, and now you got the main event where you're able to host one of the player events. that's one of the things, and I've been to all of those pretty much. Those are great events for the kids. You always see the kids come in with their game faces on, and all you see is smiles on their faces during these events.
And it's one of the events that I was the most uncomfortable about.
Really?
Yeah. It's our welcome event. It's your first official event. And so first of all, you got to find a place indoors that you can host 450, 500 people. And there's not a lot of places that you can do that in town, right? That event initially was at El Pinto, which was a great venue. We spent a lot of money putting a tent on the outside. We did a green chili stew competition. We did some sort of wrap off, and we almost had a problem one year with guys getting a little mouthy and chesty, and
that was just before my time. I think
we got it. What are we going to do? The green chili stew thing was great, and you know what? That event at El Pinto was great for us, right? It was great for the New Mexico atmosphere to eat red chili ribs and green chili enchiladas. But the kids, the players were like, yeah, the bread's good. The bread, yeah, that bread with the honey. Oh, the sopapillas. That's when, Ed, back to your point, I realized, okay, this is good for us, but is it resonating with the student athlete?
Right.
So I didn't know what to do. And when my daughter was 6, we threw a birthday party at ITS, and I came in the next Monday, and Kerry Colbert he's family to me. He's our operations guy, manager. He runs all our events. He said, well, could we hold the welcome event there? I'm like, no, dude. I mean, we held my 6-year-old's birthday party there, and I started thinking, well, they're just big kids. And so we did it at ITS that year, and they could eat all they want, and it's pizza and pasta and dogs, and they loved being kids. And there's Rich Rodriguez playing games and shooting guns, and there's big football players, on the thing, the twirly thing. And when my daughter, Dad, that guy just threw up, and it's like, oh, clean up on aisle 6, But the point was, they're kids, and it worked, and we evolved it. And
that's right.
Scott, of all the events, that was the one I was the most skeptical about. I didn't know if it would work.
See, I didn't realize that you were skeptical about that because of the success that it became. It is a big-time success.
Yeah. And then we do it at main event.
Yeah, because it's closed, and then at main event, it was almost seamless, and that's a huge place also.
Again, another one of those things where I was nervous as heck. And going into last year was our first time at that venue. And how's the food going to be? How are they going to do it? Are they going to, how it worked? It worked, but you're always, I'm on edge now. I mean, this is what I do. And if you were, I don't know, let's say the guys who run the Isotopes do a great job. They got another game tomorrow. I don't got another one until next year. Right. I mean, we've got once a year to make that impression. And
you're all about throwing one party a year.
And it's got to be good. The hospitality's got to be good. And I used to say, and it's probably true, the Rose Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, they're the Rose Bowl. They're the Fiesta Bowl. We're not. Like we've got to treat them like they are at those games, and the margin for error is very slim. And so it's funny that you bring that up, because that was of all the things we've done with the bowl, that was one of that gave me the most caution. It's like, gosh, I hope this works.
We'll take a break, come back with more with Executive Director of the New Mexico Bowl, Jeff Symbieta, here on the Sports Desk.
Got away with one nonetheless. He definitely created some conflict.
Here we go. 2-1 game on. Sam Gleedle's going to finish it.
Check the replay and show you how it happened in just a moment. Here's Luke Lawrence.
Very nice PK.
think Jack Clancy's going to take this. Domiciano's there too, but I don't think this is going to be a left-footed take. Clancy, yes! Jack Clancy.
Hey, I said it earlier in the broadcast, Adam. He loves to.
This is dangerous as Galito will leave it off. Pacheco, does he want to have one? A cutback. Pacheco's in trouble now as he tries to switch it. Here's a 1-2, and again it's Galito. Galito's going to try to bend one. Yes! How about it from Sam Galito? It's gorgeous on the inside of the. Terry Cosper Insurance Agency is a proud partner with Proview Networks and a proud supporter of New Mexico high school athletics. Terry's been a local farmer's agent for over 20 years for auto, home, life, and business insurance. Just like high school sports are important, so are teen drivers. For more information, call Terry or one of his licensed staff members at 898-5556. Quotes are available for you. Don't sacrifice quality of flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenpride@abq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of Proview Sports Network. Car Crafters, proud supporter of Proview Sports Network.
Are you sure we're supposed to be doing this?
Don't worry, I've watched him do it 1,000 times. Come on, what's the worst that can happen?
No! Bad dog!
Hi, welcome to Car Crafters. What happened? Don't worry, we'll make it like it never happened.
Car Crafters, it's like it never happened.
Altitude Sports Grill is where Albuquerque's sports fans won't miss a game. With locally crafted brews on tap and refreshingly crisp cocktails. Located in Hotel Cascada, Albuquerque residents find a staycation worth staying for. Catching Lobo sports, enjoying a beer on the beach, or wiping out, Hotel Cascada is home to your urban adventure. Affordable guest rooms, no-hassle water park parties, and much more.
Garden Sorts Team Sales is a proud supporter of Proview Sports Network.
Get into the game. Garden Schwartz Team Sales features fine products and apparel from Wilson, Schutz Sports, Speedline, and Russell Athletics. We offer custom embroidery and screen printing services for all of your school or club needs, from team uniforms to school letter jackets. Specializing in all sports and serving all communities, from big schools to small schools, from up north to down south, or all points in between. Garden Schwartz Team Sales. For great prices, friendly staff, and quality products, call Garden Schwartz Team Sales today at 1-800-880-7767. That's 1-800-880-7767. Since 1939, Garden Schwartz Team Sales is a proud supporter of New Mexico youth athletics.
And we are back here on the Sports Desk. Scott Coletti along with Ed Nunez, and our special guest here in our first couple of segments, Executive Director of the Gildan New Mexico Bowl, Jeff Symbieta.
Your special guest is sitting over there, by the way. I'm just me. He's special. Wait till you see your special guest.
Jeff, I wanted to ask you a question, and I remember when the New Mexico Bowl started in 2005, and I remember it was met with a lot of skepticism. A lot of people were skeptical about it. They thought it was a bowl just for the Lobos, and the Lobos did play in the inaugural New Mexico Bowl against San Jose State. And I remember my family went out there. It was a very cold day. I remember that game. And, I was there a couple years ago when they played Arizona. And I got a big kick out of that because I remember when the Lobos, I've lived here all my life, played in the WAC against the Wildcats. That brought back a lot of memories. They really did, because you had good fan bases. Arizona bought some fans. They sure did. And, it was a beautiful day for football. A little overcast, about 38, 42 degrees. Not bad. But, so where you started at in 2005, and again, And Scott did a good job in the first segment talking about the different trophies, the New Mexico flair, the New Mexico flavor. There's so many things to spotlight about New Mexico. There really is. And so I think when people come here and you've had the great experiences that you've had with team bases, you haven't had really a lot of problems. You mentioned that. Boy, that's great. And that's great planning. And like you mentioned, it's a great, it's a committee all year long. And right now in July, you're definitely doing that. But where you started then in 2005 and where you are in 2017, did you ever see that vision of just starting out where you are and look where you're at now, and you're benchmarking other bowls and getting information from other people to what works for them? I think the sky's the limit for this bowl. I really do. I mean, the best is yet to come, I think.
I did, and I hope that doesn't sound arrogant. I might be the only one stupid enough to have seen that. And I used to hear all the time, what are you going to do when the bowl goes away? What are you going to do when the bowl? And I remember back in 6 and 7 and 8 and 9, people, well, when's the contract up? When's the bowl done? Are you going back into television? I'm like, no, man, look, like I quit. I lost this game. I'm not going back into TV. This better work. And I did see it, Ed. When we started this event, this wasn't, I said all the time, there's no sunset on this. My intent, our intent, was to create an event for this community, this state, that is going to be here open-ended for a long time for our kids and our grandkids to enjoy. I love this place, right? I've been here 21 years. I get it. I'm not a native in some people's eyes. I don't know how long you got to be here to be from here, but I mean, at this point, I'm from here. My little girl is born in Albuquerque, New Mexico. This is her home. This is my home. I've invested a lot of heart and just love into what goes on here. I wanted to create something or be a part of creating something for our community. And I said earlier, quality of life event. So Scott, this isn't for everybody, right? But let's say Matilda's coming down. I looked at the Popejoy schedule, right? Matilda's coming, or that was last year. Wicked's coming. There's great plays. It's not for everybody, which is great. But we got Broadway plays coming. There's great bands that come through. It's not for everybody. We've got a national scale college football event. There's only 39 of them. The Poinsettia Bowl just went away.
Right. They're
in like 33 communities, and Charleston wants one, Austin wants one, Little Rock wants one, Denver wants one. There's bowls that are ready to set up in communities if they can get it done. Right. You know why? Because it's good for the communities in which they're held. That's why San Diego's had 2, and the Metroplex has 4, I think. We just moved one to Frisco, Texas. New Orleans has 2. They're good for the communities in which they're held. Our game, Ed, was strategically put before Christmas. It was put on the slowest tourism week of the year to help tourism, to help fill hotels, restaurants, retail outlets, bars, on what is typically the slowest week of the year. So to answer your question, I did. Now, did I see exactly the path that it was going to grow? I didn't. I didn't know enough. I knew I was going to have to learn, but I knew that I was going to work tirelessly. I knew that I was going to be able to engage people to believe, and I did believe that we would put a product out there that was going to become engaging. And it's been fun to watch fans and people in this community come on board and accept what it is. Look, we're not the Rose Bowl, and we're not going to be. We don't have 80 degrees in late December. We don't have a 70,000 seat stadium. But you know what we are? Let me tell you what we are. We're the Gildan New Mexico Bowl. And I'm really proud to be that, because there's a place for events like ours, and we're going to be as good as we can. And we are held in pretty good regard from the people. Ask Jim McElwain, who's the coach of Florida. I get texts from him. He says, I want to take my team back there. And I'm like, come on, Jim, forget the CFP this year. Let's come play in our game. Rich Rodriguez, Steve Adazio, the coaches, and I hate starting naming because, you leave people out, but I mean, from Rocky Long to Dick Tomey to people who've been in our game. So, Ed, yeah, I did, and I see this game being here for many, many years to come.
Well, here's the other thing that's great about the Gildan New Mexico Bowl. What's the name? New Mexico Bowl. Gildan New Mexico Bowl. Where was the Weed Eater Bowl? I don't even remember.
Well, where
the Poinsettia Bowl? Where was it? I mean, most people know San Diego, but your bowl and this community's bowl is the Gildan New Mexico Bowl. So everyone knows that bowl is in New Mexico.
And that's been a point of contention with, I think, a vocal minority that wanted the Chili Bowl or wanted whatever, and I get that, and so that's in large part because of the support, the involvement of the New Mexico Tourism Department, the governor's office, of both of the administrations that have been in office since we've been here, and what was formerly the Albuquerque Convention Visitors Bureau, which is now Visit Albuquerque, and the involvement of those communities. It's been important to showcase New Mexico and let people know it's in New Mexico. Well, there's no other bowls that are named after states. Well, in fact, there are. Right. There's the Hawaii Bowl. Right. And there's the Texas Bowl, and so there are. And, but
I'm saying it means a lot more clout being the Gildan New Mexico Bowl as opposed to the Gildan Chili Bowl, which could be in Texas for that matter,
or
for
Detroit,
like
and it's
chili
brown
as opposed to green chili.
Right, and it's beans or no beans as opposed to red or green. Yeah, and that's a big piece of that. So Scott, I appreciate you saying that because I think that's a big piece of it, and the involvement. And let's not. I don't want to by any way. Disregard or diminish the involvement of the state and the city. Right. The New Mexico Tourism Department and the Visit Albuquerque has been invaluable in the growth of this. And they've seen the leadership that we've had. And I know we tend to bang on our leaders in this state, but from my perspective, the leadership that we've had at the governor's office and the mayor's office, and then at the cabinet level of tourism and at the president level, both current and past, at Visit Albuquerque, understands the value of our event as a broad event, not about a football game, and what it does in bringing thousands of people and millions of dollars into our community. Right. It's been invaluable. This doesn't happen without the vision and the understanding of the people at all of those levels, and we're indebted to them, and I think this community is, because they took a risk, and hopefully the risk is paying off.
To this day, I go back, and I've mentioned this to you over the years, when I was still the voice of the Lobos, going to the games, and now going to the games, every time I see Mayor Berry, he's always beaming about this game.
And he should be. And as you know, Governor Martinez has, and Tanya Armenta, who's the president of Visit Albuquerque, and Rebecca Latham, the cabinet secretary of Visit Albuquerque. And I'll tell you who else. You know, Rob Packard, who's the vice president of marketing for Gildan, and Eric Lehman, the president of Gildan. You know, they've seen what it's in. You know, they're going to be the title sponsor in this game for the 7th year. And there's 39 bowls, there was 40. I want to say they're the 8th longest running title sponsor. Wow. Which says something about this community.
That says a lot.
That's not a New Mexico-based company that invested in our community and saw something in what we're doing and has seen the benefits of what we're doing. And I'm going to tell you, our partners, our title sponsor in Gildan and our presenting sponsors in Visit Albuquerque and New Mexico Tourism Department are invaluable, and their commitment and their resources and their vision is really essential. I don't want to say it's helped. I mean, there's no help. If it's not for them, this doesn't happen.
You know, it's funny, all the people that you mentioned, all the players in this big piece of pie that brought into this, and look where you're at now. And, you know, and Jeff, just hearing you, I know you're not going to rest on your laurels. It's what's new, what's more creative, what's more innovative, because when you start doing things like that, and you started at the bottom, like Drake says in his little rap, started at the bottom, and, you know, now we're here, but you're not going to stop. And I like that because, gosh, look, just like you, I'm a native, man. You know, I'm a native. Lived here all 55 years. I love New Mexico with all my heart and soul, man. I do. And so when something good happens to Albuquerque, like the New Mexico Bowl, you're showcasing Albuquerque, showcasing New Mexico. Other people in other cities and other states are coming here. Then they're saying, hey, it's nice weather in December. Let's go take a vacation. Tourism dollars, economic impact, things like that. It's more than just, like you said, it's more than just a football game. So, gosh, you know, when and then the ESPN coverage. You've had great games. So all things considered, Jeff, all things that could go wrong, they haven't. You know, and again, you're not the kind of guy that's going to pat yourself on the back. You got work to do.
But we've had problems,
right?
We've had hurdles.
No, not huge problems as far as fan bases, team bases, problems that might have gone there. Everybody speaks highly of the bowl and want to come back, and that's a testimony. And I know, like I said, you feel like you still got work to do, but where it's at now, I just get, you know, again, when I see all those trophies of the Pueblos and people that make them, man, I mean, I'm a New Mexican. I love it.
It's cool, isn't it? And you brought up something in ESPN. And again, ESPN owns us. I don't know that a lot of people understand. I'm an ESPN employee. ESPN owns, I want to say, 13 or 14 bowl games now. We televise 30-something of them. But we own. And they came in here in 2006 and took ownership, invested in our community. Now, ESPN It's a pretty good company. It's the Walt Disney Company. It's I've worked for ESPN now for over 11 years. And I've learned a lot of things about working for the Walt Disney Company and while working for them. But they invested in this community, in Albuquerque and in New Mexico. And again, you want to say, if it's not for them, we're not here. If it's not for them, we're not here. I mean, at the beginning, we needed to, who's going to back this $2 million line of credit that was necessary? ESPN came in and said, do you want us to own it? And well, yeah. At the time I was working for the governor. Yeah, and that's how this whole thing started. So the investment of ESPN is invaluable. But the fact that they've allowed us to be New Mexico and have the native things, have the unique things, is essential. And that's why I think there's been some pride. I think you guys know when ESPN comes into this market, especially, there's been some sort of a. Anytime ESPN comes in, we've been excited, right? Because Lobos weren't on ESPN for so many years. Just to get on ESPN was a big deal. And the fact that the worldwide leader invested in our community was big. The other thing is, you go back and look at some of the players who have been here. Like you talked about the games. You look at the alumni list, there's been 160, 170-something players that have been in camp in the 11 games we've had. And guys from Ryan Matthews to Colin Kaepernick to Dayon Buchanan to, I mean, you just look down the list, Bernard Pierce, there's been really, really, really good players. Mitch Unrein. I mean, guys that every Sunday you're watching a game, oh yeah. And when we had our 10th anniversary 2 years ago, this was something that was really validating too. We went out and asked some former players and coaches to do testimonials. And Rich Rodriguez did, and Rocky Long did, and Dwight Lowry did, and the guys that from San Jose State in Game 1 all the way through the whole time, and the experiences they had, and they were absolutely happy to do it. It was really kind of cool. You kind of watch them like a proud dad, right, as they go on. Now they don't know me, and that's cool that they don't, but I know who they are, and I know them, and we watch them really, really proudly as their careers progress.
Speaking of a proud dad, which you are with your daughter, let's switch gears now and talk about your radio show. We're with the executive director of the Gildan New Mexico Bowl, but he's also one half of the tag team known as the Opening Drive on 610 The Sports Animal with J.J. Buck. And, we had Bob Brown on the show a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about what he does, the balance here in this city. And there's been some hot button conversations that you and JJ have had to talk about here in the last few weeks. How do you balance that with the thought in the back of your head, man, people are going to jump on me if I say this?
Yeah, you don't care. You've got, if you believe in what you're saying, then.
Because I asked him the same question.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I didn't hear. And Bobby's a good friend of mine, and he and I worked together for a lot of years at Channel 7, and I respect what he does. From my perspective, if I believe what I'm saying, then I don't care. Jump on me all you. If I believe it's true. And
remember, the media is the bad guy all the time.
And I'm going to be honest with you, they are the bad guy sometimes. Yeah. And there's been times, I'm not going to lie to you, I've been embarrassed the way the media has handled some stories. But I've watched the evolution of media over the years, and it's kind of why I got out of it as my main gig. I'm not going to lie. And I've been on the other side now too. Right. I've had the media come at me as a bowl director. I'm very careful. I'm not shock jock, Scott.
No, I know.
Ed, Ed, you do the show over there on Sundays or on Saturdays. I'm not going to say something just to be outlandish and shock jock.
That's almost identical to what Bob said.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel.
Isn't it? Right. It's almost identical.
Well, the day I've got to do that is the day I've got to stop.
Yeah.
I feel confident of in who I am as a personality. Like, me personally. I don't think I'm any different than I am on the radio or that I was on television.
Right.
I don't want to have to get into character. I'm comfortable with who I am, and I'm certainly comfortable with what I say. I'm not going to say something that I don't believe in. And so when topics come up, I've got a different perspective, certainly, on things because of my experiences, right? I can look at things from a different perspective very, very often, certainly on business-related topics. I know a lot of the people that we talk about on a different level. So, if you're going to come at me, I'm going to be, and it's an interesting way, I never thought of it in those terms, to be honest with you, come at me. If you want to ask me about something I said, I'm going to be able to, I don't know if defend myself is the right way, but
which you shouldn't have to.
No, you shouldn't. Sometimes you do, but Scott, I'm not worried about what I say because I think I speak the truth, and it's like anything else, right? If you tell the truth, you don't have to defend anything, right? If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember what you said, and so I don't know.
Because another guy that we've had on, and we love having him on, is Jeff Grammer.
Yeah.
And he's in the middle of a bunch of stuff that's going on. And I see the word witch hunt and all this stuff. It's like when all you're doing is reporting the facts that are given to you, and then people jump on you. I mean, I'm wondering how
as long as you report them fairly.
Exactly.
Scott, as long as you report the entirety.
But a lot of people don't see it as reporting fairly because you're reporting it.
Well, but you know this. How you say things and how your headlines are written certainly can slant the way a story is reported.
Exactly.
How you steer people, certainly, and I think you've got to tell the whole story. And, I mean, do I think, there's, like the Scotland thing, all right? I totally can see the validity of that trip. Now, I know that makes me a minority.
A lot of people can.
But I know enough.
If you know anything about the college business, you can clearly understand that trip.
But people have a problem with off the top. How can they go play golf in Scotland? That's not a business trip. Well, I'm just going to tell you.
Ask Ohio State, ask Florida, ask other schools how they do it, because every school does it.
That's right. A lot of schools do things like that. Well, it's not a business trip. People have problems. Well, I'm going to tell you, my business trips are different than the guy who's going to Peoria to sit in a seminar and a meeting, okay? I'm going to tell you, guys in sports, your business trips were to go watch a football game in San Diego.
Right.
Oh, that's a tough business trip, Scott, but it is, right? I've played golf on business trips. I've hosted golf.
Yep.
All right? It is business. I've done more business on a golf course than I have at any board meeting, any boardroom anywhere.
I've been with you golfing when you were on the phone the whole time making business deals. So yes, I know that personally.
Now, did things happen that weren't right there? Evidently, yes. And so, but how? Boondoggle, and they went to Scotland on taxpayer, and you paid for it. That's where I sit there and I just cringe sometimes. Right. So yeah, it is the way it's presented. Right. It is. If you're getting, are you supposed to tell me the facts, or are you supposed to tell me opinion? Sports talk radio host is supposed to tell you opinion. If your picture's on a column in a newspaper, you're supposed to tell me opinion. But if you're going to tell the facts, tell them all. Why did money go to Learfield? Well, Learfield, on the Dreamstyle deal. Well, Learfield's got a deal, and part of the assets that were going to Dreamstyle, the suite, the signage, are Learfield properties. You just got to tell the whole story.
Right.
But Scott, yeah, sometimes the media can slant and does, and therein lies some of the uproar.
Before we go to break, last question for Jeff.
Jeff, I think it's a 3-hour show with J.J. Buck. I listen on the way into work. You guys do a great job. It's an award-winning show. I know you've won 2 awards, I believe, or maybe more. I'm not sure. Is there any special preparation that yourself and J.J. produces our show?
No, they just show up and do the show, right?
But I don't know if there's any special.
I know that differently.
Yeah, J.J. produces our show on Saturdays.
Yeah,
great young man.
Yeah,
great young man. If you ask J.J., who's the starting guard of the 1996 Kansas Jayhawks, he's going to have it for you.
Yep.
You guys do any special prep before the show? How do you guys come up with your plan?
He and I have a special thing, and JJ is me when I was in my 20s. He knows everything and stats and players, and he's really smart. He and I, we don't have meetings. We don't have a lot of meetings. We'll text her, like the other day, hey, I've got Doug Martin at 8 o'clock on Wednesday, and Paul Weir was 8 o'clock on Tuesday. I'm not gonna lie. I don't get in a lot before the show. I get in a few minutes before, but I do my prep on my way in. He and I will text and communicate a lot. We don't have a ton of meetings. We've never. Can I just tell you, JJ and I have been working together, I want to say 8 years. July 27th is going to be 9 years that I've been doing this show.
Right.
This particular show. We've never had a conflict. Now that doesn't mean we don't disagree, but we've never had a conflict. We've never, bleep you, or you're out of your mind, or I don't want to do this. I respect the hell out of him, and I believe he respects me. We've been, we've been very fortunate. We've won. We've won. I want to say 3 NMBA awards for Best Sports Show. I've been incredibly fortunate to win, and you've been to Salisbury for the National Sports Media Association, which is one of the greatest trips. I've won the last 2 years Sportscaster of the Year, which is just incredibly humbling and out of nowhere. Preparation is a constant, as you know. Preparation is constant. We're watching stuff, and I think the 3 of us have the same storage mechanism where if we hear something, we remember it, right? Yeah. Some people remember what bands and who was the backup bassist for Kansas in the 70s or whatever. Hey, you want to go Kansas again? I'm going the band, you're going the team. But prep is constant, just watching stuff, remembering, writing little mental notes, and now you get older, you write little notes now, actual physical notes. Right. But that's the prep, and I'm blessed to be with JJ. He's just tremendous, man, and his future is going to be something else.
Yeah. Well, Jeff, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you very much.
People don't know this. He's busy year-round. So the executive director of the New Mexico Bowl, Jeff Symbieta, will take a break and come back with more on the Sports Desk.
Sure, you could get him a new car. You could also light a pile of money on fire. So maintaining this old car is your best option. Keep it running longer, stronger, with quality parts and a whole lot of Napa know-how.
Hey Lobo fans, I'm Sarah. And I'm Samantha. Jaguar Land Rover Albuquerque has been a family-owned business since 1988. The 2017 Jaguar F-Pace has been named the winner of the 2017 World Car of the Year and World Car Design of the Year. Land Rover's signature terrain response system is flawless against any curveball New Mexico weather can throw at you. We have a class-leading extended warranty on all Jags and Land Rovers and one of the greatest pre-owned inventories in the state of New Mexico. Call 505-797-3600 to schedule a test drive.
The Barley Room, proud sponsor of Proview Networks for over 9 years, is pleased to introduce Black Iron Catering. From weddings and family reunions to birthdays and office parties, Black Iron Catering is perfect for any event. Contact Jamie at 505-459-8259 and book your event today. Black Iron Catering. Let us bring our kitchen to you.
Visit the Frontier Restaurant. Due to heavy construction on Central, take lead or coal coming north or south. The Frontier Restaurant. Get your Frontier fix on.
I am never getting married. Never. Guaranteed.
You picked a beautiful ring.
Thank you. We're never having kids.
I love it here.
We are never moving to the suburbs. We are never getting one of those. We're never having another kid.
I'm pregnant.
I'm never letting go.
For all the nevers in life, talk to State Farm agent Michelle Rudolph or Marty Size in Albuquerque.
For 55 years, people have bought trucks from Tillery in Los Lunas. We have a great selection of vehicles, the quality service department, and some of the best deals in the state. But most importantly, we found people prefer to buy trucks from people who actually drive trucks.
Tillery is a proud supporter of Proview Sports Network. Don't forget, every Proview Network sporting event is on sale at our DVD store. Go to www.proviewNetworks.com to buy your DVD today.
Hoops New Mexico Basketball Courts is coming to Albuquerque soon. 10 full basketball courts and a whole lot more. For more information, contact Dan Serrano at hoopsnm@aybl.com.
And welcome back here to the Sports Desk. Scott Galletti along with Ed Nunez. Our thanks to Executive Director of the Gildan New Mexico Bowl, Jeff Symbieta, for joining us. And now, Ed, we have another very special guest, a Hall of Famer on the coaching ranks here in the state of New Mexico. if you don't know the story about the Albuquerque Bulldogs, well, you've been under a rock, because he was a big-time cog in that piece, and he is also part of the New Mexico High School Coach Association. Jim Holzman.
Thank you. That's very glamorous to make it.
I try to make it glamorous every time you have it on. We have you on with us, so
keep it going.
How you doing?
I'm doing fine. How about you?
Good.
How's your friend doing over there?
No, he's doing okay.
Well, you know, it's funny because you mentioned
How are you
that,
doing, friend?
Well, you mentioned that about Coach Holzman, and, you know, I watched his teams play. I competed against his teams. I officiated him when he coached, so I'm very familiar with Coach Holzman and the Albuquerque High Bulldogs. A lot of my friends, my colleagues are Albuquerque High Bulldogs, so I'm real familiar with Coach, very familiar.
And you never gave him a T, correct?
I never did. Well, you know what, if you always said you got a T from me, Coach wouldn't say much anyway. Coach would let you know if he didn't agree with the call, but he was always very classy about it. And, you know, I always said, if you got a T from me, it was a special occasion, because I'm going to try to talk you out and say, I'm listening to you. You know, I didn't look at, in 22 years, I didn't kick out a player or a coach. I wasn't looking to do that. And Coach Holzman, if he had a question about a call, it was always brought up in a question mode, not a statement. So Coach Holzman was very classy, as he is off the court as well.
Actually, I knew better than to argue with an official. I was faster than him. He couldn't catch me.
Is that what it was? He was faster.
I was
Okay.
quicker. I could get off there. That's another story.
The times that I've had you on, and we've had you on the air, I've never asked you this. What did it mean to you to have the documentary Papa Dog dedicated to you?
Well, that was...
Which was fabulous, by the way.
It was very well done. I was kind of a surprise to it. No one interviewed me for it. You know, they just did it, and took what we had been doing, which was pretty favorable over a period of years. And I had certain advantages, like playing 64 games in the pit, taking the pit basketball team down the pit 64 times.
That's amazing.
Brings out, you know, other things like that, you know, were a factor, definitely.
But all the testimonials that were done on your behalf, I mean, when you heard all those and you saw all those, what were your thoughts?
Well, I felt that I had some pretty good players. And I also felt that I had some pretty good assistant coaches. My one coach, Jess Miranda, he and I actually, we were together about 6 years before I ever got the head job. And we understood each other. And it was great having Jess there with me. And it kind of opened the door. Because, see, I wasn't hired down there to be a head basketball coach. I was hired to be the head track coach.
Yeah.
And assistant football coach.
I love that story, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
And also cross-country coach.
Right.
And but my
you said you were fast.
Yeah,
so,
I was real quick. But you know, you have those things going for you. And I'm probably the only coach in Albuquerque that ever got appointed. I was appointed to be a head basketball coach. I never volunteered. I never applied for the job. But George Fair left the school, and they called Jess and I in, and Mr. Ike said, one of you guys are going to be the head basketball coach. Okay. So he pointed me and says, you're now the head basketball coach. Jess says, well, I'll stay with you. And that's it. Jess and I stayed together for all those years, and it was great. So, but you just fall into these things.
Right.
You don't go out. I had to be a head track coach too. I still stayed as head assistant football coach. So this was just, by their ideas, this was just another way to keep doing things.
Right. Let's get into brass tacks quickly. The New Mexico High School Coach Association is having their annual meetings next week. Talk about that.
Well, I tell you, that is history right there. And nothing like history can carry you to the next level. But see, it used to be the New Mexico High School Officials Association. Then they brought the coaches in, which was good because we started to communicate better. And Doc Ledbetter handled it at the beginning, then Bobby Gibbs, and now Buster. And it's a tradition. But if you use it to your advantage, it's one of the most marvelous things that could happen. You're not only learning the fundamentals from other great coaches, but the nice thing is you're building relationships.
Yes.
And there's nothing like good relationships between coaches and officials. So it stayed on that way, and it's getting bigger, bigger, and bigger.
You know, you mentioned some great names there, Coach. Bobby Gibbs was, I remember when I started playing basketball, there wasn't a lot of venues for us to play at that time, and had to be the boys club, the Heights, and the Heights Boys Club and the Old Town Boys Club, which Henry T was in charge of the Old Town Boys Club. So that's where I started my basketball career, the mini leagues. I remember that. But the names you mentioned, and Coach, I think the relationships you mentioned and the history. And I'll tell you one thing right now in front of everybody: nobody knows the history of New Mexico high school basketball better than Jim Holzman. Nobody. And this comes from your players, Coach, because like I told you, as an adult, I played with Arnold Senna, Trini Salas, Larry Williams, Edward Edmond, Anthony Aiken, Michael Beard, and they would tell me the memories you have and the statistics you would put up that still stand to this day. So if an Albuquerque High Bulldog coached by Ron Garcia, one of your former players, comes up and says, well, I have this record, well, Darren Sanchez, who's a very good friend of mine as well, might say, well, that's not true, because I remember back. So Coach, nobody knows the game and the records of the New Mexico better than you. There's no question.
Well, I've written enough. They have the Holzman Archive up at the University of New Mexico in Zimmerman Library, and it's a history of athletics in the Southwest. Well, that goes back to about 1892. Well, if you've been writing about it all these years, you get a little bit of knowledge of what's going on.
Break down next week in a nutshell. How important, what's going to be going on?
What's really important about that thing is the human relationships that are needed. There's always been a conflict between officials and coaches.
Yeah.
And there's always been this conflict between parents wanting too much for their children. You have parents come and actually verbally attack, why isn't my son doing this?
Right.
Well, this Coaches Association pulls a lot of these things together, really pulls people together. You get to talk to the officials, you get to talk to the coaches. The parents are more than welcome. Now, parents are more involved than ever before because they have volunteer coaches. People who come from other professions come in at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and go home.
Right.
They need that communication between the veteran coaches, the regular coaches, and understanding how the officials work.
Well, Coach, I want to thank you so much for joining us here. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Well, keep it going.
And Ed, we got about 30 seconds. Final word on your end.
Well, I think Coach is right. I'm going to make this real quick. I was a coach, I played, and I was an official, and Coach is right. We should try to have better relations. I'm not an official anymore, but I'll always be one. I was out there 22 years. So I think it's good that these clinics come together. I always had a feeling that we could have better relationships. I'm not out there to hurt anybody. I'm just there to do a job. At least that's the way I looked at it. So I think Coach is absolutely right about that.
Once again, I want to thank the Executive Director of the New Mexico Bowl, the Gildan New Mexico Bowl, Jeff Symbieta, and the legendary head coach at Albuquerque High, Jim Holzman, for joining us. He will be part of the New Mexico High School Coach Association coaches meetings next week, and we will talk to you next week as well. For Ed Nunez, Alden Iowani, our director, I'm Scott Galletti. We'll talk to you next week on the Sports Desk.